The Israeli Prime Minister has arrived in a Tel Aviv court for the fifth day in his long-running corruption trial. Benjamin Netanyahu is accused of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. If convicted, he faces up to 10 years in prison. Now, he denies any wrongdoing, describing the charges as absurd. Al Jazeera's Hamdah Salhut is in the Jordanian capital, Amman, covering this because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting in Israel and in the occupied West Bank. So, Hamdah, brief us on this trial, where we are in the proceedings and how dangerous this could be for Netanyahu.
Well, Cyril, this is the fifth day that Netanyahu will testify, and proceedings actually began early because Netanyahu has to be at the Israeli parliament before 4 p.m. when they do close the sessions in the Knesset. But this morning, there was a letter that was released by the state attorney's office, and it comes after a couple of weeks ago, there were some judges at the Jerusalem District Court who expressed concern over the charges that were being pressed against Benjamin Netanyahu. However, the state attorney's office says that even if Netanyahu wasn't directly involved in these crimes, he did have awareness about it and he did know about it. So the state attorney's office and the prosecutors are arguing that Netanyahu did know about the situations behind the scenes, even though he denies any wrongdoing. Now, this is a trial that could take months, if not years, before we get a verdict. And even if Netanyahu is convicted, he could appeal that conviction and still be prime minister during that appeal.
Okay, how is he handling this politically? What's his reaction been so far?
Well, Netanyahu and members of his far-right coalition have said this is a smear campaign against the premier. He's repeatedly called the charges absurd, denying any wrongdoing since the beginning. But you have to remember, this isn't something that happened yesterday. This is 8 years in the making. And 5 years ago is actually when these charges were brought against Netanyahu in the indictment. But Netanyahu maintains his innocence. The first time that he did testify, he said that he's been waiting these 8 years to tell the truth. The prosecution and the state attorney's office say otherwise. They say that Netanyahu was involved in these crimes, which include bribery, which include corruption, which include accepting gifts. So Netanyahu says that he has to do his job as prime minister, maintaining a war on 7 different fronts, he says, but he says that he can do both. He can both stand trial and be the prime minister. And remember, there were a couple of times when he was testifying where they actually had to call a recess because he had to take some sort of security calls and make decisions as the premier. But surely an unprecedented moment in history for Israel's longest serving premier.
Hamdah Salhut reporting from Amman, Jordan. Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.